Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Our listeners on Google Meet and Facebook Live. My name is Ali Makambe. Vice President of Students of Gambian Union in Russia. Federations of our country. It's not the most popular. Usually when you talk about the National Assembly of the Gambia, it's his face that comes to mind. Currently he is the chairman of the Public Accounts and Public Enterprise Committee, in short PAC or PEC, and representative of the Serekunda constituency at the National Assembly. He is also the vice chairman of the Defense and Security Committee. In 2016, he was the spokesperson of the coalition which eventually won the presidency. He is also a founding member and Secretary General of the People's Democratic Organization for Independence and Socialism, that is PDOIS. And this year, he had election. His name is no other but Hon Halifa Sallah. Honorable, you are welcome.
Thank you very much.
Now I will turn the mic to the host, Peter Mendy, to give a more detailed introduction of our guest. We recently made some profound discovery about Honorable Sallah, which we want to share with our listeners. Peter?
Thank you. So, for those of us who only knew you, let's say during the past 10 or 15 years, I would like to give a brief timeline about you and your part in politics. So, Honorable Halifa Sallah was born in Banjul in 1953 and grew up in Serekunda, where he attended St. Augustine Senior Secondary School at the age of 16. He was already advocating for social justice, for government to redress the desires of poor Gambians. He was also an advocate for the unity of Africa, drawing inspiration from Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana and others. At the age of 17, he went to the United States to complete his diploma at the Rabon Gap Boarding School in Georgia. From there, he proceeded to Missouri at the College of Ozarks, where he acquired a bachelor's degree in sociology and a minor in psychology. From Missouri, he proceeded to the Howard University in Washington, D.C., where he which is historically a black university, by the way, to pursue a combined master's and PhD program. So while at the US, when the situation with blacks was very tense, continuing the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, Honorable Sallah, together with other African students, created a youth association called the African Youth Movement for Liberation and Unity. So that spirit of activism and agitation still burns in Honorable Halifa Sallah. He returned to the Gambia in 1977, if I am right, and worked for the Social Welfare Department. He was responsible for research training and family welfare for low-income families. In 1983, he was accused of involvement in a coup plot and was held in remand at the Mile 2 prison camp. The charges were later dropped in 1984 when the government could not establish the facts. Moreover, after going through some correspondence between Honorable Halifa Sallah and his colleagues, it was discovered that they were actually against coup d'etats. Honorable Halifa Sallah served in Parliament from 2002 to 2007, representing Serekunda Central, and was also the minority leader at the time. He is a former member of the African Parliament, which is the legislative body of the African Union. In 2006, as we may know, he contested for the presidency as candidate for the National Alliance for Democracy and Development, NAD, and became third in the race. Currently, he is a member of the African, Caribbean and Pacific European Union Joint Parliamentary Assembly, ACP-EU Joint Parliamentary Assembly in short. He is co-owner and editor at the Fourier newspaper. He has written numerous articles and books including The Road to Determination and Independence, and treatise on founding a federation of African republics. And if I am correct, his last book is called The Impulse and Its Aftermath. So of course, we can go on and on to say a lot of things about Honorable Halifa Sallah, but we would like to hold it there for now and jump right into the discussion, which is leadership. Honorable Sallah, we would now give you the floor to deliver your opening statement.
Thank you very much. Your last words were not very much heard, but I believe you have invited me to deliver my opening remarks.
Yes, yes.
And if that is the case, I would say that the 21st century, a world without borders. The mind cannot be restrained by borders. Human beings everywhere must acquire knowledge that must come from every society in order for us to be universal in our vision. We must have a mission to save humanity. Our thinking must be larger than our origins. That is what makes it human being. And include me in your mission to seek knowledge in order to become the architects of your own destiny. I must say that I am inspired and would want to accompany you in that long journey, which starts from the cradle and does not end with the grave. For what we leave behind must be continued by others, and the mind continues to live as long as it extends itself by enriching the minds of others. That's the interconnection that makes human civilization not only possible but sustainable. I must there say that the opening remarks geared to prepare the ground for an interactive session. This is not designed just to be a lecture. It is designed to engage so that I know where you are and help you to move a step or two beyond yourselves so that you grow to become the other self. Because the human being is self but also social self. And we can only live in society if we have a common vision. And that arises from our common heritage, yes. But heritage can also be stagnant if we do not add value to it. And that value is each of us realizing what all of us need, contribute. Possible and sustainable. So in that regard, the issue that you put before me is how we must situate concepts within the context of our times. What you ought to know to be able to exercise leadership is the need to have a society that you own. Otherwise, who are you leading and where are you taking people to? The society in which you live today did not drop from the sky. It has a history. And you must know that history. You must know where you came from before you know how you got to be where you are. And how to move from here to be who you should be tomorrow. So the past, present, and the future are interconnected. And leadership is inconceivable without a grounding on our past, grounding on our present, grounding on the future to be. All of you, as Gambians, are part of a people. And that is what is missing. But we cannot talk about Gambia without talking about people. And the drawback of our development is the misconception. Your generation is grappling with the issue of people. We came to be a Gambian people not as a result of a historical accident. Societies all over the world cannot be stagnant. And Gambia today was not yesterday. The history is distorted because they focus on the external basis of change and transformation. But what is important for you today is not a lecture on history, but to understand the Gambia that you are a citizen of. That Gambia came after a long struggle between those who came to the Gambia in search of greener pastures and met people that they interacted with, but for them to take charge of the territory and utilize that territory to promote their interests. And that is why on the 10th of August 1889, the British and the French met with the view to share territories that they had long explored, long interacted with the people, long engaged in trade, but now with the objective of having full control of order to promote their own economies. That is why they agreed to draw the border in a very crude way, in such a way that even up till today, we are yet to fully establish what the borders of Gambia and Senegal constitute. Gambia now transformed into their property. Resistance, of course, external creation of a territory, but not internal creation. The because of the people. You cannot only dominate the people internally. And that's why they experimented with that. The protectorate ordinances 1894 to 1902 were fought with those who resisted until they could defeat them. And therefore they were able to establish their administration at the beginning of the 20th century. By 1902, they had consolidated all their gains, divided the colony and protectorate, transformed the leadership in those territories into their tools, safe foods, alcohol rooms, all put under the domination of commissioners, and commissioners listening to the dictates of the governor, and the governor, the British monarchy in the United Kingdom. Colony was the heritage of our lack of ability at the time to come together to become a people, because that we call the Gambia could exist. That is history. But for years, we've seen the transformation from external domination to internal domination to colonization. We had to move another trajectory, the trajectory of rolling back what had happened in order to liberate ourselves. In the National Congress of British West Africa in 1920, people like Edward sovereign people we ought to be tomorrow. It started with consciousness. Liberation starts with awareness. Leadership is the capacity to give awareness to the people so that we develop a sense of identity. Without awareness, there can be no identity, because we have to know who we are in order to identify who belong to us. That is precisely why the struggle, that small wage, had to be carried out by awareness building and organization building. Those are the fundamental tools of liberation: awareness and organization. People are aware and they are organized. Nobody on earth will be able to control them. That is why small introduce newspapers in order to raise awareness. Introduce Ratepayers Association, unions of workers, farmers, cooperatives, in order to build the organization of the people. It's a long history. You will learn it, and you may have already gathered that. That's not why we're here. It's just creating the basis that we eventually, by 1947, the first election to the Legislative Council, won by Small, was the starting point of building the sovereignty of our people. And the people own a country. They do not need a monarch. They have to take charge of their destiny. They have to have a say, and they have to have the authority that what they say stands and means something. That was the beginning of what ultimately led to 1960 universal suffrage, the creation of House of Representatives, and moving to 1965 a constitutional monarchy, partly attaining the right to self-determination and independence, but self-determination and independence that lacked sovereignty. It was not sufficient only to be able to elect the leaders, but sovereignty is what made independence real, because a sovereign power was not for any allegiance, no obedience, no adherence to any foreign power or state. That is why in 1965, where the Constitution still provided for an executive, Her Majesty, the Queen of England, with a governor to represent her, is not the type of constitution that could ensure the sovereignty of our motherland and the sovereignty of our people. That's why we had to crawl because of lack of awareness, lack of political leadership. 5 years before we ultimately attain the right to sovereign existence. With the Declaration of the Republic on the 24th of April 1970, a declaration which is still meaningless because it's not even commemorated in our homeland, to show how minds are stagnant, not nourished by our history, not preparing us for a future that belongs to us, that we must build. In that regard, 24th April 1970 created the basis for a sovereign republic with a sovereign people, not sovereign individuals, sovereign people. So each individual is part of the people, the Gambian people. And what was required at that time was to prepare the leaders of the present and the future to know that Gambia was a sovereign republic and no force on earth should control the destiny of our people. And the Gambian people were the owners of the Gambia, its waters, its land, its airspace, and that together it has one will, power. That power provides residence for consent, and that consent is what determines representation. That each sovereign Gambian from birth is given the authority to own the Gambia and must grow up with that notion and knowledge that he or she is the owner of the Gambia. All the land, sovereign land, belongs to him or her as a matter of the joint ownership of the land. That it is as important as the other, and together they are all important because they alone can determine the destiny of the land. They are the owners and must be the beneficiaries of our development. That should have been the trend. They are simply entrusted with what belongs to others. And their duty is to understand that as public trustees, they should seek always to exercise authority entrusted to them for no other purpose but to promote the country that Gambia should be. Is it of what we own? Why is that? Because we are yet to be conscious that we own it and that we have a say, and nobody can deprive us of what we own, because each of us has the authority to say, to determine who we entrust our motherland to. But alone, if we fail to convince others so that they see us we do, of course we'll be divided. Divided will be subjugated. Liberty requires a people with the same vision and same mission, knowing that all are entitled to liberty, dignity, and prosperity, and each must be committed only to sound. So as we look at the issue of leadership, it's nothing more than what is required that will satisfy those who have decided to entrust you. And that means that you must have knowledge of what is entrusted to you. You must know what the person wants or the persons want of you. But from an inclusive perspective, from an interactive perspective, that you are with the people who you are supposed to serve. And they are there working with you so that in common you achieve a common goal. Leadership should lead to that ideal of being part and parcel of those people you need, and they are all part and parcel of you. That you work together, you march together, that you're only ahead in ideas, but not ahead in interests, because that interest should be common interest. Therefore, the heart of the leader of today and tomorrow must be the type of leaders whose heartbeat is in unison with the heartbeat of every human being on earth and every citizen in our homeland. That heartbeat that feels the suffering of everyone, and therefore always march towards this, all live joy and plenty as we move to take charge of our destiny, to make those who come to life to demand what we can do for our country, but should not demand what our country should do for you or for us. No. As we appear on the face of the earth, it is that country that should welcome us as the child of the nation and give us the protection we need, just like they would protect our mothers who give birth to us, and protect us when we could do nothing for ourselves, and we grow up well protected until we can do something for our country. My conclusion is that all of you share a common destiny as human beings, as Africans, as Gambians. We need a universal geographical environment in which we find ourselves, from which we build, and know that if we build the Gambia to be part of a civilization that will make humankind what it means to be human, to have love, to have care for each other, then we would have fulfilled our goals as a people. And we will be appreciated all over the world. And Gambia will rise like a star constellation of nations as Gambia had envisaged. When he demanded for Africans to never allow themselves to go to sleep again and never allow themselves rise, build that force, that wave, that great mass wave of the people. That's the message. I hope I'm still online.
Yes, you are. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for those words. I think you've reminded us uh, of what it means to be a patriotic Gambian, of what it means to love your country and stand up for your country. And I believe we, the young ones, have nothing but to follow your footsteps. So, on that regard, I would go into my first question. So, in your statement, you recounted what I would call, let's say, the injustices of the colonial masters when they drew the borders without our consent. So, how much of the responsibility today, how much of that burden today, I would say, lies upon us, we the young ones, to carry out the mission which you have started? Yes, sir.
The line is breaking. There's a.
Okay.
I didn't hear the question.
Okay, so I was asking how much
I had
of the.
colonial master, but I didn't.
Okay, I was asking how much of the responsibility today is on us, is upon us, we the young ones, to carry on that mission which you have started, to redress the wrong about the colonial masters drawing the borders without our consent. So what should we do now, we the young ones, in relation to the West? How do we relate with other nations, particularly the West?
Well, we have reached a stage where we are demanding for equality in international. Who can this is the time that we need to have moral authority, and that moral authority is derived by utilizing our brains in order to transform our environment to be able to address this aspiration. Look at the Gambia with its ocean, less than 2 million people, endowed with an ocean, with all the resources that you will be able to imagine. Have a land without snow, without major natural disasters. We can produce everything that we need. It will nourish carbon. When we have all the land to be able to produce for that 4 billion to be in our hands, we can produce the livestock, poultry, pig. We can produce the milk, the eggs. There is nothing that we cannot do. You look at the lands. Less what we are cost. Why? Because we are yet to build the type of system that enable each child to be educated in an early childhood setting, well protected, given breakfast and lunch, and protected by well-educated teachers who would be able to help not only to protect education and tutoring in order to choose where they will be in the division of labor in society in order to add value to society. We are capable of doing that. We don't need to beg others to be able to do that. We have the resources. Example is during the coronavirus period. Government says, let me take 845 million so that I can buy rice, sugar, and oil to give it to those who are not well endowed. Why is it impossible during your own childhood till now to give food by making food universal and compulsory? What makes it impossible to do that? It's possible. We have the resources, but we never have the will. And that is the will you need, that is the will I need, that is the will the country needs now, not later. In order to build a society where others will respect us and will see that they have no choice but to relate to us. This is quality, because we have built a society that they can also emulate. Emulate in the sense that we take care of our children, take care of our elderly, because we create an environment that coexists and support each other. We need to build a country that is united, a country that has a people. Not one person saying, I'm part of this, I'm part of this age. The fact that each of that person has one vote. And that what signifies your sovereign authority. And that sovereign authority is universal and equal to all. Then where is the difference? Difference should not be the basis of marginalization. Because nobody is excluded from citizenship. And anybody who falls into any other category will be lower than citizenship, will be a minority to basis. Sure. We must move to that level where we create a country of citizens. Relate to each other on the basis of equality, who by their love create a peaceful society. They want to create just society where everybody works together, irrespective of their differences, what we need to achieve.
And most of the time, when you speak from passion, and we can see that it's usually visible. You speak from really revere. So, how much of that, or maybe combining them to other qualities or values of leadership, how much of that is lacking today among, let's say, we the and values should we embed in us in order to be able to become, let's say, passionate and strong statesmen like you? I hope the
Well,
question
we
was
have
clear, sir.
moved
Or
away from our,
was it breaking? Oh,
yeah, we have moved away. Yeah, it was breaking, but I understand.
okay, okay.
We must move away from a world have to instruct people to be the way we want them to be, and build a world where we nurture to be who we would want to be, because that's what a human being should be. So we lost, did not come with that capacity to nurture a citizen who would love nation and people. Because passion comes from conviction, and conviction comes from real inner decision to love something. Nobody forces you to love. You love internally, nurtured to be able to love. And I must say, well, all of us are from different backgrounds. I would consider myself very lucky that as a young child, I was exposed to very, very meaningful ideas, very meaningful ideas. It helped me to develop a sense of purpose at a very early age, and that's what the education system was now for everyone. It should no longer be reduced to chance, because nobody is a genius. Every human being has one capacity or the other. Otherwise, we'll not have a world. Now, the carpenter making this chair and table, without those workers making this computer, then we will not be able to have the conversation. We must come to a point where we have trust in people, trust in the capacity that each individual to allow everybody to add to the society needs. So to answer your question, the starting point is those people we have entrusted with the destiny to lead. Leadership is a responsibility. And those who are not willing to do the extra work in order to know what to do, courage and conviction, then leadership becomes inspiring. And develop the capacity to deliver. So society needs to cultivate the type of environment that will continue to generate the type of human material that society needs. In that sense, we can transform everybody into a leader of one sort or another, because principal in the school, doctor in the hospital, the nurse with the patient, is exercising some form of transfer of knowledge and skills and values. So each person is indeed a leader, a teacher, but as a way of life and all towards the common good, well, there is absolutely no doubt that that's the desire.
So, coming back to the point of leadership again, I don't know whether I will be repeating my previous question, but I just want to uh, shift it a little bit slightly, because in your interview, I think it was on with Haruna Drame on Paradise TV, you said when you were young, you just wanted to learn. I think you were speaking on behalf of your, let's say, colleagues at the same age at the time, that you just wanted to learn, but usually you do not know what you want to become. And that's still happening today. That's still happening today with young ones, with youths. We are just studying most of the time. Even here, when you ask Russians, let's say, they are like, I am just studying, or my mom told me to study this, let's say medicine or international relations. So, where should we look to right now, especially in these trying times, now the pandemic also? Where should we look to for guidance? Because you recounted that at your time you did not have that. During your time you did not have that. So today, where should we look to?
Yes, you see, the concept of learning is just building the power of the mind. And that's what we see. Is what makes the person to be seen and to be a successful student. Of course, my own experience, I got close to people. I don't want to go into family settings and all that, but I constantly remember something that I would always want to share. A mother that tells stories. And we did not have television. We sleep early. Our early nights with storytelling. And the stories would go with songs that really touched the inner being of the person. And you see these often being maltreated by a guardian, and how this often struggle, hardship, and ultimately being tried to do where the guardian expected would cost the life of the orphan. And instead of costing the life, the orphan emerges as a hero or heroine, overcoming the adversity. Become a tree or transform into some other objects like a rock. And in that sense, you are filled with joy that this person who has suffered so much ended up with honor and glory. I think that nourishes love for justice and hatred for injustice, contempt for injustice. And I must say that played a part in my upbringing and manifested in how you see society as a whole. And I remember two incidents that really shaped my life. One, I was in primary six, and I was a school teacher who had this Afro-Americans who visited hefty in building, and ultimately he had a book and he was reading it. I just took the book and I started reading. After I said, hey, this above you, no man cannot understand. So I looked at him, he was high up there, and I really lost interest in everything he was saying and doing. Because I was reading, maybe I would not understand everything that was there, but I was interested. And the best thing the person should have done is really, what have you gathered from this? And maybe I'll show my ignorance. Then the person will start a new form of pedagogy and put me through, at least explain what is there, since I didn't have the grounding to be able to read it to understand. But downplaying my intelligence, that was held in real that I was being nurtured to feel that I could do anything. I could understand anything, no matter how young I was. My second incident was at Carm Island School at the age of 16 and a half. We went to attend a symposium organized for Stokely Carmichael, who was part of the Black Power movement in the United States, to speak to us. Of course, these are identity issues, Black Power. These are identity issues. When human beings are deprived of power, they have to develop a sense of identity. Now, of course, we move farther than black-white, issues. We move into really understanding human society, understanding nature, to be able to build a society where we are respected, not only fighting for. It was highly inspiring to me, listening to his eloquence and the suffering that he really mentioned. And I see the romanticization of the suffering of people. On televisions, on movies, etc. So I came to come to a decision. I had to come to a decision, pardon me. And that decision was that I would really wish to join this person in that crusade to eradicate the suffering of the African people everywhere. So to me, this was a different form of crusade. People of all was a sad day. My heart cried, and the only thing that could really nourish that heart is to make a commitment that from henceforth I will learn. I will share ideas of how to eradicate the suffering of the African people everywhere. I believe those two developments really taught me who I was and created a path for me that I comfortably decided to tread on from my earlier formative years, and I will continue to tread on this ground until I go to the grave.
So, if I am correct, those two moments, or the final one, I would say, the second incident you narrated, was the moment you realized that, yes, I've got it. This is what I want to do to alleviate the poverty of my people, to take on a mantle of leadership and see what I can do in society. Am I right?
Yes, except the issue of leadership. I really never thought of a mantle that I'm working to become a president, to become somebody. I just saw that my duty was to work to liberate the people. And where that will take me, I did not know. But I was ready for it. That it would take me anywhere. I remember when I finished my bachelor's degree,